The plane touched down at the private airstrip just after midnight. I hadn't seen the city in over a decade, but even in the darkness, it pulsed with the same sharp edge I remembered. This wasn't a homecoming, it was a confrontation. And I was ready for it. Sort of. My name is Emma Thorne. The name used to open doors, crush rivals, and freeze conversations. But after the scandal, the trial, and my self-imposed exile, it became something whispered. A ghost story told at fundraisers. The girl who vanished. The heiress who never came back. Until now. I stepped off the plane in black boots and a long coat that flared in the wind. My lawyer, Dominic, waited beside a sleek black car. He looked me over like I was a glass about to crack. They know you're back, he said. Of course they do, I said. Let's not keep them waiting. We drove in silence toward the estate. I knew what was waiting. My grandfather's will. My inheritance. And the clause. A twisted demand from a twisted man. If I wanted the fortune, every cent of it, I had to get signatures from 4 men. Not just any 4. They were handpicked by my grandfather. 4 men my family destroyed. 4 men who had every reason to see me fail. Dominic laid out their names like cards in a game I was already losing. Mark Langston. Your father bankrupted his company. Max Hale. Your mother left his father for your stepdad. James Carter. Your uncle framed him for embezzlement. And Grayson Vance. The crown jewel. Your grandfather ruined his entire bloodline. What a charming guest list, I murmured. They're not friends. Not even enemies. They're weapons. Each one has enough reason to bury you alive. Then I'll need to make them curious before they do, I said. The gates of Thorne Hall creaked open, and the past rolled over me like fog. I walked into the estate alone. The chandeliers were dimmed, but the portraits watched me like they expected me to run. I didn't. Not this time. The next morning, I faced them. All 4 of them, summoned under the guise of a legal meeting. Mark arrived first. Slick suit, cold smile. Still charming in a politician's way. He looked me over with amused disdain. Well. The fallen princess rises. What do you want, Emma? Just a signature, I said smoothly. And a chance to make things right. He laughed. You think right can be bought? Only if you're still selling. Max walked in next, taller than I remembered. Rougher. His sleeves were rolled up, his hands calloused. He used to be a golden boy. Now he looked like a man who'd walked through fire. He said nothing, just looked at me like I was poison in his bloodstream. James entered third, smug and slow, like he already knew he'd win. His grin was sharp. I heard you were back. Couldn't believe it until I saw it. What's the game, Emma? No game, I said. Just a deal. You always did talk pretty. But I don't forget betrayal. Last came Grayson. And the air shifted. Tall. Silent. Dressed in black like the funeral we never held. He didn't sit. He didn't speak. He just stared at me with eyes like slate and a mouth carved from war. Grayson Vance was the reason I almost didn't come back. He wasn't like the others. He didn't want revenge. He wanted silence. And I was the only thing louder than his past. Dominic cleared his throat. The terms are simple. Each of you signs your approval. When all 4 signatures are obtained, Emma receives the full inheritance. Mark leaned back. And what do we get? That's the fun part, I said. Each of you gets what you want most. But you'll have to deal with me to get it. Grayson finally spoke. His voice was low, almost bored. This is a circus. You're welcome to leave, I said. But something tells me you won't. His eyes flicked to me. Don't be so sure. After the meeting, I stood alone in the garden where my mother once held tea parties for guests who hated her. The wind carried the scent of old roses and older regrets. I didn't shake. I didn't flinch. I'd learned a lot in exile. I knew how to play nice. But I also knew how to play long. One by one, I would dismantle their anger. I would find what they wanted. I would make them need me. Or I would burn with the house. Either way, I wasn't leaving empty-handed. I started with Mark Langston. He was the most predictable. Ambition in a tailored suit. He'd built a new empire from nothing after my father gutted his first one, but it never reached the scale he once dreamed of. He wanted legacy, headlines, power that lasted longer than a news cycle. I found him where I expected, at a ribbon-cutting ceremony for a tech park bearing his name. I slipped past the press, right to the edge of the red carpet, and waited until he saw me. His smile didn't waver, but the twitch in his jaw gave him away. Emma Thorne, slumming it in public? I'm flattered. I thought I'd give the people a story worth talking about, I said. A truce, perhaps? You want a signature. That's not a truce. That's a bribe. Then name your price. He took my arm, leading me toward the cameras. Walk with me. Smile. Let them see us getting along. And maybe I'll think about it. I smiled like my teeth were glass. That was the thing about Mark. He liked to look like he was winning even when he was being played. And I knew how to play him. Over champagne, I offered him what he craved, control. You can head the board of the Thorne Foundation, I said. If I get the inheritance, I'll make you chairman. Publicly. He blinked. Just once. That's not a small offer. Neither is your grudge. He didn't agree. But he didn't say no. That was the first crack. Max Hale was a different story. He didn't want publicity or control. He wanted distance. And answers. I found him on the coast, where he ran a boatyard with the kind of quiet people who didn't ask questions. When I stepped onto the dock, he froze. You shouldn't be here, he said. Probably not, I said. But I'm not going away until we talk. About what? The mess your mother left? The way she wrecked my family for a man she got bored of in 6 months. I looked at him closely. He'd grown into himself, lean muscle, quiet heat. There was something about him that still carried weight, even in silence. I didn't come to defend her. I came to acknowledge the damage. And offer something better. You can't undo what she did. No. But I can fund the marine research project your father started. The one he pitched to my grandfather before everything went to hell. It's still shelved. Untouched. I can bring it back. Max stared at me, jaw tight. You think money fixes things? I think refusing money out of pride won't bring your father back either. That hit something. He looked away, back at the water. You've changed. We all did, I said. Some of us just got better at hiding it. I'm not signing yet. Didn't ask you to. Just wanted you to think. I left him standing on the dock, wind tossing his hair. That night, James found me. I wasn't surprised. He'd always liked to stay one step ahead, and he didn't like being left out of anything that smelled like a scheme. He slid into the bar stool beside me at the hotel lounge like he owned the place. You're stirring the pot, Emma. I like it. Almost makes me miss you. You never had me, I said. Not even close. He grinned, leaning in. Don't flatter yourself. I'm not here to rekindle anything. Just curious. What's the angle? It's not an angle. It's a transaction. You need 4 signatures. That's not a deal, that's a trap. And you know it. Maybe. But you're the one who always loved a good con. You owe your career to what my uncle did. You made something from the ashes. You've profited more than anyone. And you want me to reward the crime? No. I want you to own it. I pulled out a file from my bag. These are all the contracts and patents that should have been yours from the beginning. You're owed. This makes it legal. He flipped through it, eyes scanning fast. You had this prepared? I'm not stupid. He laughed. Not anymore, at least. So? Do we have a deal? Maybe, he said. But you still have the hardest one left. Grayson. The man who had said barely 3 words to me in 10 years. The one I couldn't read. The one who watched me like I was the problem he hadn't solved yet. He was the one I feared. Because his silence didn't mean indifference. It meant control. I waited for him in the conservatory the next morning, surrounded by winter roses and dust-covered instruments. I didn't expect him to come. But he did. Quiet as smoke. Dark coat. Sharp eyes. He didn't sit. Just stood in the archway. You're wasting time, he said. You're the only one who hasn't listened to my offer. I don't need your offer. I don't want your money. You know why I'm here. Then why show up? His voice was colder than the frost clinging to the windows. Because I wanted to look you in the eye when I told you, I'm not here to apologize for what he did. I'm here to make sure it ends with me. That surprised him. A flicker. Just a flicker. You can't erase a blood debt. Maybe not. But I can break the cycle. Or die trying. He stepped closer. You really think you can control this? I don't want control, I said. I want release. He tilted his head, studying me. You're either very brave or very stupid. A little of both, I said. But I'm not lying to you. That's more than anyone else ever gave you. His silence was a verdict. But not a sentence. And somehow, that felt like the beginning of something much more dangerous than hate. I thought I'd felt pressure before, growing up in the Thorne house, surviving scandal, enduring exile, but nothing compared to the weight of waiting. Mark, Max, and James were circling, watching, testing. Grayson remained the storm I couldn't predict. And I had no idea which would break first. Mark invited me to a gala 2 nights later. He didn't say it outright, but the unspoken message was clear: prove you can play the game again. Walk back into the lion's den and make them forget you ever bled. I wore a black satin dress with sleeves like armor and heels that clicked like intent. Mark met me at the top of the stairs, all charm and menace in his tux. You clean up well, he said. You always liked broken things polished. He smirked. Let's see how long you last. Inside, the ballroom glittered with people who'd once whispered behind their champagne glasses about the Thorne girl gone wild. I caught the stares. Let them linger. A few smiled too brightly. Some turned away. But I stayed upright, chin high, smile sharp. Mark introduced me as his strategic partner and watched the room shift. Whispers turned into curiosity. Contempt into calculation. After the third toast, Mark leaned in. You're good at this. I was raised for this, I said. You just forgot. I didn't forget. I just thought you'd never come back strong enough to matter. And now? He raised his glass. Now I'm intrigued. He didn't say yes, but he didn't need to. That night, a courier delivered a small black envelope to my room. Inside was his signature. One down. The next morning, I returned to the coast. Max wasn't on the dock this time. I found him in the old shed behind the boathouse, sleeves rolled up, grease on his hands, bent over a rusted engine. He didn't look up when I knocked. I got one, I said. I heard. Mark always did fall for polish. I stepped closer. This isn't about polish. It's about purpose. He glanced at me then, eyes narrowed. You think you have one? I think I need one. And yours made more sense than most. You didn't walk away. You stayed. You built something real. Your father would have been proud. His jaw tightened. Don't use him. I'm not. I'm offering you a choice. Take the funding. Get the research back in the water. Or walk away and prove my family still owns you. That struck a nerve. He stood up fully, wiping his hands on a rag. You think I want to be part of this circus? I think you want to finish what he started. He stared at me a long time. You're not the girl I used to know. I had to burn her to survive. Another pause. Then he walked to a drawer and pulled out a folded paper. His signature. 2 down. Back at the estate, James was waiting in the library, lounging in one of the old leather chairs like he'd lived there his whole life. Took you long enough, he said. I wasn't rushing. I signed already. Left it with Dominic. That stopped me cold. Why? Because watching you twist yourself into a weapon is more fun than dragging it out. And because I want to see what happens when Grayson finally snaps. Always playing chess, aren't you? He grinned. Always. 3 down. And then there was Grayson. I found him exactly where I shouldn't have gone, my grandfather's old office. He stood at the window, looking out over the frost-covered grounds. I stepped in without knocking. You're trespassing, I said. This was his throne room. You know that, right? I nodded. He ruled from that desk. He ruined from it. His voice was quiet. Cold. I moved to the desk, running my fingers along the edge. Then maybe it's time someone burned it. He turned. You don't want this, Emma. You think getting my signature is the last step. It's the first drop. I'm not afraid of you. You should be. His eyes pinned me in place. You think you're in control, but this, all of this, it's bait. You're chasing blood money and calling it redemption. I'm chasing closure. He stepped closer. And what if I don't give it to you? Then I'll stay until you do. His jaw clenched. Why does it matter to you? My forgiveness? My consent? Because you're the only one who never lied. You hated us openly. You didn't play games. And if I can face you and win, then I know I've earned it. Something shifted in his expression. Not softness. But something. You're playing with fire. I'm used to the burn. He stepped even closer. I could feel the weight of his anger, his grief, his restraint. 3 signatures. You're almost there. But mine will cost you more than all of them combined. I met his gaze without flinching. Then let's start the negotiation. Grayson didn't agree to meet again, but he didn't tell me to leave either. That was the problem with him, he never played by any rules but his own, and silence was part of his control. So I changed the terms. I waited until nightfall, then found him in the West Wing, where he'd been staying since the will was read. My grandfather's private wing, long sealed. He was in the study, sleeves rolled up, firelight flickering against his sharp features. He looked like a man carved out of warning. You're persistent, he said without looking up. I'm not leaving without your signature. He leaned back in the leather chair. Then we're going to be very tired of each other. Are you afraid of giving it to me? I asked. He looked at me then. No. I'm afraid of what you'll become once I do. I stepped closer. I'm not trying to become anything. I just want my life back. He stood, walked past me, and poured a drink. You think this inheritance is your life? It's a curse, Emma. Your grandfather didn't build a legacy, he built a prison. He burned bridges, collected enemies, and now he's made you the warden. And you think if I take the money, I become him? I think you already have. I exhaled slowly. Then prove me wrong. Work with me. Help me dismantle it. He turned sharply. Don't you dare ask me to be complicit in a redemption arc. I'm not asking you to save me. I'm asking you to test me. He studied me, long and hard. Then he walked to the safe in the wall, opened it, and pulled out an envelope. This is what he left me, Grayson said, tossing it onto the table. A file on your mother. Letters. Surveillance. Proof he knew everything and did nothing. I picked it up, hands trembling. Why show me this? Because if you want to rebuild anything, you need to understand what you're standing on. Bones. Lies. Ruin. I sat down, opened the file, and began reading. My mother's affair with Max's father. My uncle's setup of James. My grandfather's involvement in every downfall that made these men my enemies. Grayson sat across from me, watching me fall apart piece by piece. When I finally looked up, he said, "Still want the signature?" Yes, I said. More than ever. He didn't move. Didn't blink. Why? Because I can't erase what he did. But I can make sure it ends with me. He stood slowly. You're not ready. Then make me ready. The tension cracked between us, sharp as glass. He stepped closer, eyes dark. You don't want my attention, Emma. I already have it. His hand moved to the back of the chair, gripped tight. You think you're in control? No, I said quietly. But I'm not afraid to lose it. His jaw worked, and for a second, I thought he might throw me out. But then he turned and walked away without a word. And that, somehow, was worse. The next morning, Dominic told me the press was circling. Word had gotten out. The heiress was back, and the vultures were hungry. You need to be seen doing something generous, he said. Something real. I have an idea. That afternoon, I announced the reopening of the Thorne Foundation, with Mark as chairman, Max as director of environmental grants, and James as advisor to public equity initiatives. They were surprised, but not displeased. Cameras flashed. And I wasn't running. But Grayson didn't come. I sent a letter. Not a request. A challenge. Meet me at the chapel. Midnight. It was where the original estate was built. Where everything began. I waited in the dark, the wind howling through cracked stained glass, until I heard his footsteps behind me. You think drama earns respect? He said. I think showing up means you haven't walked away. He stepped into the moonlight. You want my signature? Fine. But I want something in return. What? I want you to bury it. I blinked. What? Everything. The money. The legacy. The name. I want you to take the signatures, take the power, and dismantle it. That's suicide. That's justice. I stared at him. You want me to burn it all down? I want you to choose something greater than what they left you. And if I don't? Then you become him. Silence stretched between us. And if I do? I asked. Then maybe I sign. I swallowed hard. You'd trust me with that? No, he said. But I'd watch. And I'd make sure you follow through. He turned to go, then paused. You said you weren't afraid to lose control. Prove it. And then he disappeared into the dark, leaving behind only the echo of my heartbeat and the beginning of something far more dangerous than revenge. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in the old bedroom that used to be mine, staring at the ceiling, hearing Grayson's voice on a loop. Burn it down. Dismantle the fortune my grandfather built. He didn't want me to inherit, he wanted me to destroy. And deep down, a part of me wanted that too. I had power in my hands now. 3 signatures, the press eating out of my palm, the foundation relaunching like a phoenix. I'd proven I could restore what was broken. But Grayson asked if I could go further. Not just fix it. End it. The next morning, I met with Dominic. I want to restructure the will, I said. His brows lifted. Emma, that's not how it works. It is if I gain full control. I want to take the estate, the assets, and split them. Half into charity. Half into a trust managed by the people my grandfather wronged. That's bold. It's what he never did. I don't want this house if it stays soaked in blood. You're really doing it, then. You're going to follow through on his condition. Even if it erases your claim. I nodded. Yes. He studied me. And Grayson? I'll give him exactly what he asked for. But it wasn't that simple. Grayson didn't want obedience. He wanted conviction. So I didn't wait for him to come to me. I went to him. Late that night, I found him in the stables. He was brushing down one of the horses, sleeves rolled to his elbows, quiet and steady. You're the only one who doesn't want anything from me, I said. That's not true, he replied without turning. I want you to be better than all of them. I'm trying. Trying isn't enough. I walked around to face him. Then tell me what is. He looked at me, and there was fire in his gaze, but it wasn't rage. It was something sharper. You gave them power. You gave Mark a chair. Max a grant. James a title. And you think that redeems what was done to them? No. I think it gives them control over their own legacy. And what about mine? He asked, stepping closer. You said you didn't want anything. I lied. My heart kicked up. Then tell me the truth. He reached into his coat and pulled out the last document. The one I'd been chasing for weeks. His signature. Already there. Dated the day after our meeting at the chapel. I stared. You signed it. I needed to see what you'd do without it. I held the paper, fingers trembling. Why give it to me now? Because you chose to dismantle it. Not for me. Not for anyone else. You did it for yourself. I looked up at him, overwhelmed. So what now? He stepped in, closing the last inch between us. Now you get to decide what kind of ruler you want to be. I barely breathed. And if I don't want to rule? Then walk away. But you'll still watch me. He nodded once. Until the end. I didn't kiss him. Not then. But the tension between us pulsed like a heartbeat. He left without another word. But I didn't need one. I had everything now. All 4 signatures. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't just an heiress. I was free. The next week moved in a blur. Lawyers filed the new documents. The media exploded with speculation. Rumors of the heiress who turned down billions. Mark tried to control the narrative, but he knew better than to spin it without me. Max didn't say much, but I received a package from him, blueprints and a note. Let's build something worth your name this time. James left a voicemail that simply said, color me impressed. I didn't think you had the guts. And Grayson? He left the estate. But not before sending me one final letter. You don't need forgiveness, Emma. You need obsession. For truth. For justice. For the life you were never allowed to live. Chase it. And if you fall knowing you did it on your own terms. I sat in the garden where my mother used to host tea parties and lit the letter on fire. Watched it curl and disappear in the wind. I didn't know where I was going next. But for the first time in my life, it wasn't back. It wasn't down. And it wasn't under anyone's name but mine. The Foundation's official relaunch was held in the atrium of the Thorne Museum, another legacy site my grandfather built with stolen money and renamed in his own image. This time, I made sure the banners read something else. The Hale Langston Initiative for Restorative Growth. Their names, not mine. And under it, a quote I chose deliberately, power is not inherited. It is reclaimed. I stood at the podium, staring into a sea of faces I'd grown up fearing. Politicians. Billionaires. Journalists. Sharks. The kind of people who smiled with knives in their teeth. I didn't smile back. I read my statement with clear eyes and a level voice. My grandfather's wealth came from decisions that hurt people. I've inherited the consequences of those decisions, and I refuse to pass them on. This foundation will not serve the Thorn legacy. It will dismantle it. The assets will go toward rebuilding the lives and communities our name once harmed. We are not erasing history. We're correcting it. It wasn't applause that followed. It was silence. Heavy. Calculating. And then, slowly, a few stood. Then more. Until the entire room rose with it. I knew not all of them believed me. Some thought I was playing a long con. Some thought I was naive. But the ones who mattered, the 4 men who had every reason to hate me, stood in the front row. Watching. And one of them wasn't clapping. Grayson. Later that night, I found him outside, away from the press, leaning against the railing of the rooftop terrace like he was above it all. Maybe he was. You didn't clap, I said. I don't perform. You think I did that for show? No, he said. That's what scares me. I stepped beside him, breathing in the cold night air. Then why are you still here? Because I don't believe in ghosts. But I believe in reckoning. And you think I'm one or the other? He looked at me. You're both. We didn't speak for a while. Just stood there, shoulder to shoulder, the lights of the city glittering below like scattered promises. I keep thinking about what you said, I finally admitted. That I needed obsession. That I needed to chase something. I think I found it. But it doesn't look like I thought it would. What does it look like? Choice, I said. Not revenge. Not restoration. Just the freedom to choose. Grayson didn't smile, but something in him softened. You always had it. You just didn't know how to claim it. I do now. He turned, finally, fully facing me. Then what will you choose? I hesitated. You. It was the first time I said it. Not a game. Not a negotiation. Just the truth. His eyes darkened, not with anger, but something heavier. Need. Want. Hesitation wrapped in desire. You don't owe me anything, he said. I know. I'm not a clean slate, Emma. Neither am I. The space between us disappeared. He kissed me like he was breaking his own rules. Like he'd waited years to hate me and couldn't figure out when it turned into something else. His hands were rough on my back, pulling me close, and my fingers tangled in his collar like I needed to anchor myself to something real. When we broke apart, breathless and quiet, he rested his forehead against mine. I'm going to regret this, he murmured. Probably, I whispered. But not tonight. We didn't go back downstairs. We didn't need to. The next morning, I stood in the mirror brushing out my hair and saw something I hadn't seen in years. Not just strength. Not just defiance. Peace. The kind that comes after war. Grayson sat on the edge of the bed, shirt half-buttoned, watching me like he still didn't know how I became the woman standing there. What now? He asked. Now we rebuild. On our terms. And when they come for you? I turned to him. Let them. I'm not hiding anymore. And if they think they can break me, they forgot who raised me. He grinned, just slightly. And who destroyed them? I walked over, placed the final signed document on the nightstand, and kissed him once more. The signatures weren't my victory. Surviving them was. Choosing what came next, that was mine. And I was just getting started. 3 weeks later, I received the first threat. A clean white envelope slid under the door of my downtown office. No return address. No signature. Just a note, typed in all caps. You should have stayed gone. I stared at it, fingers curled tight. Not fear. Not shock. Just recognition. My grandfather didn't just leave behind wealth. He left enemies. Generational ones. People who thrived in the dark spaces his money carved out, people who didn't like the way I was dismantling their playground. I didn't show the letter to the board. I didn't show it to Dominic. I showed it to Grayson. He read it twice, silent. Then calmly slid it into his coat pocket and said, You need to be more careful. I'm not running. I didn't say run. I said be careful. There's a difference. I met his gaze. And what would you do if I weren't? His expression didn't change. Make sure they regret it. It wasn't just words. I knew that. He'd spent years building walls no one could climb. But with me, they were lowering. Slowly. He wasn't just watching anymore. He was protecting. Which made it harder to ignore the truth. We were becoming something we couldn't undo. It started with short touches, his hand at the small of my back when we entered a room, his fingers brushing mine under the table during tense meetings. Then the looks. The quiet stares across a room that said everything we didn't speak aloud. But it wasn't just heat. It was gravity. I was falling into someone who had every reason to hate me, and somehow, that made it real. Messy. Sharp. Addictive. James noticed first. "You and Grayson," he said one night over drinks. "Is that a game or a glitch in your armor?" "Neither," I said. He swirled his glass. "Careful. He doesn't break easy, but when he does, it's permanent. I'm not looking to break him." He arched a brow. "Then what are you looking for?" I didn't answer. Because I didn't know yet. Max sent me a photo that week, his boat in the water, finally launching the research center under the new funding. The message underneath was short. "You kept your word." So will I. Mark, ever the politician, started name-dropping the foundation at conferences. I let him. He liked the shine, but he was smart enough not to overstep. And that left me with a strange sensation. Control. Not just of the estate. Not just of the narrative. But of myself. For the first time, I wasn't acting out of obligation or fear. I was making choices. Bold ones. So when the second threat arrived, it didn't shake me. This time, it wasn't a letter. It was a file. Photos of me, Grayson, the foundation's finances, all circled in red. A single line scrawled in pen, "We're watching." I handed it to Grayson without a word. He read it. Burned it. We weren't hiding anymore. Not from the press. Not from the past. Not from ourselves. And that terrified people more than anything we said in speeches. Because the girl they exiled came back with a weapon they never expected. Loyalty. Grayson stood beside me at the next board meeting. When someone suggested slowing down our restructuring, he leaned forward and said, "You can leave. The rest of us are moving." And they listened. Not to me. To us. I saw it in their eyes. They couldn't divide us. Not anymore. Which is why the third message came directly to him. An unmarked flash drive slipped into his car. Inside, footage of his younger brother. The one my grandfather ruined. The one he thought had disappeared for good. But he wasn't gone. He was being used. Grayson showed me the video without speaking. A boy, now a man, chained to a table, hooded, silent. The screen cut to black, and then a single message appeared, "You want the girl? Give up the name." He crushed the drive in his hand. Then turned to me. "They're going to force me to choose." "You already did," I said. He stared at me, jaw tight. "And if it costs you everything? Then we fight. You don't know what they're capable of. Then show me." He grabbed my face like he wanted to memorize it. "Emma, this doesn't end clean." "Good," I said. "I'm not interested in clean. I'm interested in war." And we were already in it. We didn't sleep. We planned. Moved. Burned everything we couldn't protect and armored everything we could. I shut down the estate's public appearances, funneled operations to a secure location, and relocated the foundation's finances into layered trusts, every piece of Thorn money now traceable only by me. Grayson called in people I didn't know he still had access to. Ex-military. Former spies. People who didn't blink when handed threats. This wasn't inheritance anymore. It was survival. But I wasn't scared. I was steady. Because they'd already tried to destroy me once, and I came back stronger. They underestimated what desperation and legacy can breed in a girl forced to claw her way through the ashes. We tracked the IP address from the flash drive to a warehouse near the outer edge of the city. Not owned by any corporation. No cameras. No records. Grayson insisted on going alone. I didn't let him. We arrived at midnight, cloaked in shadow, hearts loud but hands steady. Inside, the air was heavy with rot and memory. Grayson moved like a soldier, fast, quiet, certain. And then we found him. His brother. Alive. Gaunt. Barely conscious. But breathing. Grayson froze. I watched him kneel beside the man I knew he'd spent years believing was dead. "Luca," he whispered. And the man opened his eyes. It was a trap, of course. The room locked down behind us. Steel shutters slammed over the doors. A screen flickered on above us. And then I saw his face. Vincent Thorne. Not my grandfather, but his bastard son. The one no one talked about. The one cast out before I was even born. He wasn't just bitter, he was dangerous. Forgotten blood. Fueled by resentment. I knew you'd come, his voice rasped through the speaker. You think this belongs to you, Emma? You think you get to rewrite our legacy while I rot in the dark? You were cut out for a reason, I said. You weren't fit to carry it. And you were, he sneered. The little princess? They gave you the world, and you tried to burn it. I succeeded, I said. He laughed. Then let's finish the fire. The gas valve hissed open. Grayson stood, pulled Luca up with one arm, and turned to me. Run. I didn't. Instead, I reached into my coat and hit the switch Dominic gave me. Backup. Real-time location tracking. Within 90 seconds, half a dozen black vans pulled up outside. Mark. Max James. Each with people they trusted. Each one had gotten the signal. And they came. Because I wasn't alone anymore. They cut through the shutters. Pulled us out. Dominic handled the legal fallout. Vincent disappeared into custody, if not something worse. Grayson never let go of Luca's hand. I never let go of his. In the days that followed, the headlines exploded. Reclusive heiress survives assassination plot. Family secrets and the war for the Thorne legacy. Redemption or revolution? But I didn't care about the headlines. I cared about the fact that Luca was recovering. That Max's research lab was opening in 3 cities. That Mark was stepping down from politics to take a full-time role at the foundation. That James published an exposé on the corruption buried in our family's assets, and signed his name to it. And Grayson? He didn't say much. He stayed close. Watched me like he was waiting for the day I might vanish again. So one night, I gave him what he never asked for but always needed. My promise. I'm not going anywhere, I said. He looked at me like he didn't believe it, but wanted to. You fought for something bigger than revenge, he said quietly. I didn't think you would. I didn't know I could, I whispered. He stepped forward, touching his forehead to mine. But you did. I kissed him like it was the first time again, slow, deliberate, full of all the pain and power we'd survived to earn it. The next morning, I stood in the garden where everything had started. The wind moved through the hedges, soft and new. And I finally understood what it meant to rebuild, not from scratch, but from ruin. I was Emma Thorne. Not an heiress. Not a prisoner. Not a ghost. I was the end of the curse. And the start of something entirely my own.